Well, Steve Arts 89. Well, there's been a little bit of talk about Wednesday and the appearances of Morticia and Gomez Adams in the Wednesday series. Morticia, Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, seems very ordinary. She just looks like a lady in a black dress. She doesn't really seem to be very Morticia-esque at all. Very disappointing. Not actually unfaithful in that sense, but just really ordinary. They really didn't make much effort. I expected something more creative or dynamic or something. It's just really bland. And Louis Guzman as Gomez, he doesn't fit a lot of people's expectations for Gomez. And the argument against that is source material. That, his character is more true to the original source material. And I did see someone who I normally hate, a YouTuber who I don't like because of his beliefs, but that doesn't mean he doesn't understand pop culture and isn't right about some things. And he was talking about the fact that arguing source material doesn't always work if that's not what made it popular. If the popularization of the show or the character or the franchise is based around a particular movie or a series or a portrayal, then that's what people expect, and that's what you have to base your show on, or your character or franchise or whatever on. Just always going back to the source material doesn't always work, because that's not always the best example of that character and what made it popular. So why does this happen? Why does it keep happening that they go back to the source material all the time? Well, you kind of have to understand IP and licensing. A lot of the creators own the original IP, and then someone leases the right to make a TV show based on it, so they make their own show, and then someone will make a movie based on that, or maybe based on the original, but the original creator always owns the original IP or always returns to them. And the people who create the new shows, they own the rights to the new shows or the new movies. And the people who own the original IP, they can't sell other people. They can't license out the licensing for the new movies or the new TV shows. So you get this situation where either people come in and they just go back to the original source material because that's what they own, so they keep leasing that out to people to make work based on the original. Or you have people who want to avoid the original and want to create their own, so they then have their own little version of it that then they can monetize and license from or whatever. So you get situations like with He-Man, where they couldn't do a continuation of the Filmation TV show or the mini comics or any of the other He-Man, because different people owned those. So they had to go back to Mattel's original rights to the toys to base the TV series on that. So no one really got what they wanted. They didn't really get He-Man. They didn't get the Filmation He-Man. And they lied. They actually said it was going to be a continuation of the 80s He-Man, and it actually wasn't. They didn't own the IP for it. So they bait and switched, and a lot of people were unhappy. And you see similar things like with Transformers, where when they made the movies, they were saying we can't base them on the old cars because they're old, and we can't make Optimus Prime red because it doesn't photograph well, and all these lies. Really what it came down to was they wanted to create their own versions of the characters to make toys of, to make money of. They didn't want to just resell the old characters. So you get these sort of two situations where they either return to the original source because that's all they have the rights to, or they create their own so they don't have to pay, back to the people who created the original source. So what's his name was true of what he was saying about how you really need to focus on what made the show popular, what is the best example of that show, not just returning back to the original source material or making up your own version that serves you or suits you or is different for the sake of being different. No one wants either of those. So I just wanted to comment on that. I was just watching some videos and just looking at the whole situation with the Munsters and Addams Family and Star Trek and Strange New Worlds and all these shows, and how far they deviate and when they work, when they don't work, why they don't work, and just looking at the whole industry as a whole and how IP and licensing, and there's this big generational shift between who owns what franchises and people taking them over and trying to reinvent for new generations and create. It's a big, huge mess. I'm going to do another video on that as well. I find it all curious and interesting, and sometimes just talking about it helps me to actually clarify it. So I don't script my videos, I just talk. and try and keep it to about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I just wish people would focus on the best version, the truest version, but that's not always the best thing for them financially. So sadly, that's not what we're going to see in most cases with most franchises and characters and TV shows and so forth. But